The box arrived at Dr. Ann Ross's laboratory, containing more vials than she had ever seen in her career. Inside were fragments of human remains, ribs, vertebrae, pieces of bone where limbs once connected. The head had been severed, the arms removed. No soft tissue remained because the body had been submerged in a Texas creek under 90-degree heat for days before discovery. Adding to the difficulty, the medical examiner in Texas had already cut into the bones at trauma sites without documenting exactly where those cuts were made. Dr. Ross now faced an impossible question. Which marks happened during the murder? Which happened after? The scene defied imagination. Laura Ackerson built her life around two small boys. She worked alongside her best friend Yvonne in a small business and rented an apartment in Kinston, North Carolina. Everyone who knew her used the same word, bubbly. She had no known enemies. Her only focus was regaining stability with her children after a complicated relationship with Grant Hayes. They had gone through a courthouse ceremony in the U.S. Virgin Islands while he pursued music. Laura believed they were married, but Grant never signed the license. The marriage was legally void from the start. He later married Amanda while Laura returned to North Carolina alone with the sons. Court orders required Grant and Laura to exchange their children every Friday at a Sheetz gas station. That was the agreement. That was the routine. But on July 13th, Laura went directly to Grant's apartment instead. She left a friend a voicemail saying she was about to see her boys and did not know what would happen next. That message became her final words. Grant told detectives Laura arrived at 6:30 p.m., took the children for several hours, returned them at 9:30 p.m., and left before 10 p.m. When pressed for details, his phone connection broke up. He claimed poor service because he was in the boonies. Raleigh has no boonies. Cell phone records do not lie. Grant Hayes' device traveled from Raleigh, across Mississippi, and straight toward Fort Bend County, Texas. That was no coincidence. Amanda's sister Karen Berry owned property there. Detectives flew to Texas and found Karen waiting. She asked to pray before answering any questions. Then she admitted Grant and Amanda had arrived without warning, claiming it was an impromptu visit. Grant had shown unusual interest in a hog pen on the property. He asked what it could be used for. Karen later saw him doing something inside that pit. Soil samples from the area tested positive for muriatic acid, a chemical that erases tissue. Now, way to say definitively that acid had touched this body. Science demands certainty. Without it, investigators could not make the direct link they needed. Karen Berry finally led detectives to a creek across the road from her house. She had watched Grant and Amanda take a small john boat onto that water late at night. They carried multiple coolers brought all the way from North Carolina on a trailer. Before the boat trip, they asked about alligators, whether the creek had them, whether they would eat anything that entered the water. When the sheriff's department launched their own boat into that same creek, the heat was unbearable. Air temperature over 90 degrees. Water even warmer. They found a fatty substance floating on the surface, human tissue, melting in the sun. Only 60% of Laura Ackerson remained. Most of the bones sent to Dr. Ross were fragmentary and porous. Spongy bone does not hold tool marks well. Hard cortical bone is what forensic anthropologists need for comparison. But she worked with what she had. She measured striations, counted teeth per inch, observed incomplete cut patterns. Her conclusion pointed to a handsaw. Then detectives searched Grant's apartment again. This time, they found something buried under papers, a handwritten custody agreement signed by Laura. She agreed to give up her children for cash. Everyone who knew Laura said she would never sign such a document. The FBI later determined Grant wrote the top half. Laura wrote the bottom, under pressure. Walmart security cameras captured Grant Hayes at 2:30 in the morning on July 14th. He walked slowly through the tool aisle. He picked up one saw, put it back, picked up another, compared them. He eventually chose a Skill brand reciprocating saw. Then he added goggles, gloves, heavy-duty trash bags, plastic tarps, extra saw blades, a complete cleanup kit. When Dr. Ross saw this footage, she immediately admitted her handsaw conclusion was wrong. She purchased the same saw in two blade types. Using pig femur as a human substitute, she tested the all-purpose blade first. The groove patterns did not match. Then she tested the wood blade. Perfect alignment. The wood blade killed Laura Ackerson. On one cervical vertebra beneath Laura's skull, Dr. Ross discovered a small nick. Microscopic analysis confirmed it was made by the tip of a serrated blade. A stab wound to the neck, delivered upward from under the chin. That was the cause of death. The knife itself was never recovered, but the bathroom at Grant's apartment offered evidence of what happened next. The shower curtain was gone. The toilet mat and brush were missing. A bleach stain marked the carpet near the bathroom entrance. The entire room smelled of industrial cleaner. Investigators removed plumbing, lifted flooring, swabbed every surface. Luminol revealed nothing. nothing. No blood, no DNA. Yet the absence of evidence became evidence itself. Grant Hayes received life in prison without parole for first-degree murder. Amanda Hayes received 13 to 16 years for second-degree murder. The prosecution played a rap song Grant wrote about killing Laura. As the lyrics filled the courtroom, Grant nodded along to the beat. Laura's sons were 3 and 4 years old when their mother died. They lost their father to a life sentence. Grant and Amanda's newborn daughter also lost both parents. 3 children erased from a normal childhood. Dr. Ross closed the case file, knowing she had done what she was trained to do: speak for someone who could no longer speak. Laura Ackerson finally had her voice back.